Good morning, guys. We're going to start a new lesson plan in chapter 19. I'm going to go through the workbook homework that we've been doing, review it with you guys, and bring you up to speed, because next week, good chance we'll be back into regular classes online, and I want to make sure chapter 19 is up to snuff. We're discussing the first three commandments, and they all deal with God and our relationship to God. The first commandment, I am the Lord your God. You shall not have false gods before me. When we get to your homework on workbook question number 1, the question says, what is the essence of each of the first three commandments? Reviewing some of your answers that I got in, most of you got the gist of it all. The essence of it is respect in the first three commandments. Respect for God's nature as one true God. Right? The second is respect for God's name, and the third is respect for God's workmanship. Right? So, we have no false gods before the great God, the Creator God, the essence of the perfect God. Right? And the false gods in the old days were golden calves and bronze statues. Today, your false gods and your gods you put before him of greed, and money, and, pornography, any thing that you have a greater desire for than the desire for God is a false god, right? So you need to show God's respect, and that's what this question is dealing with. The second commandment, respect God's name. If you love him, you won't insult him, right? Blasphemy is a serious offense against God. Now, I know in the modern world, you guys, don't have an intent to insult God. You use the word God damn it, Jesus Christ, you in your slang vocabulary, you throw out insults to God. You don't have the intent of doing it, but it in effect does, and it hurts him. And you should try and learn your vernacular and use other expressions other than insulting your God. All right, and the third essence of the third commandment is God is the creator of all the universe, all that is beautiful and good in this world, right? And he rested on the third day from his labors, and he saw it was good, right? And so we give respect to God's work by resting on the Sabbath, right? On Sunday, we're supposed to be with family, go to church, worship our God. Entertainment is fine, playing golf, fishing, things that are relaxing and not self-serving and productive in the workplace. It's difficult in today's society for us to do that. Back when I was a kid, nothing was open on Sundays. Most gas stations weren't even open. Today, people are forced to work on Sunday if they want to keep their jobs in a lot of cases. It's wrong. I don't know how that's going to get corrected, but it is. Now, your second question in your workbook. In the ancient world, what was the distinction between the Jewish religions, right? What made Judaism different from all the other religions of the time in the ancient world, right? The Jews believed in one God who completely transcends material world, right? That monotheism, yes, and it goes beyond just being a monotheist. We're monotheists, Muslims are monotheists. But the God, the Judeo-Christian God of ours, is beyond all material things. He is the creator of all material things. He is the perfect good. He's the culmination of love. And he's the essence of perfection, right? And so that places him above all other things. And that was a unique situation in the ancient world. Now, Christianity has spread across the planet. And so it's not a unique concept. But remember, Christians believe in a rational supreme being. And Islam is the God of Abraham, a eye for an eye God, a tooth for a tooth God, a unforgiving God, a strict, demanding God. And we see him as a forgiving and loving God, right? All right. The third question on your workbook is how are the Ten Commandments divided into two groups? Now, the first three deal with man's relationship with God and how we are supposed to respect him and deal with him. And the last seven are the social commandments, dealing with how we deal with each other, right? Shall not kill, thou shalt not steal, honor their father and mother, thou shalt not commit adultery, and so on. They're all set the social norms for how man is supposed to live with each other in God's world. So they're quite unique the way God put these commandments down, because most every nation laws are based on those seven commandments. Some of them don't go along with the first three, but they do, have laws against theft. They have laws against murder. All of that comes from the Ten Commandments, and that's true in communist countries who are pure atheists. They still have social laws that go back to the Ten Commandments. Now, your fourth question was right, the first commandment, which we've already gone through. I am the Lord their God, and they shall not have false gods before me. Question number 5 is, how's the first commandment based on both Judaism and Christianity, right? Both faiths share the common belief in one God, and above all else, they alone shall be worshipped, right? So both our religions, Christianity is rooted off of Judaism. They say, basically our faith was Jewish until they rejected Jesus and his teachings, right? But we still have the same basic worship concepts. Number 6, what is the relationship between the first commandment and the theological virtues? Now, we're going to have to do a lot of discussion on the theological virtues through this chapter. Your tests and quizzes are based a lot on it, right? Faith, hope, and charity. Sometimes we say faith, hope, and love. That's what charity is. Are the virtues that we get in baptism. They're infused in us when we are baptized, right? Not only is the stain of original sin wiped away, but those virtues are placed in our heart. And we should live to those virtues. A virtue is a positive aspect that we're supposed to seek. A vice is something that takes you down and puts you in hell. And some of you have some vices that if you let them continue, they will put you in hell, right? So we'll briefly talk about the virtues right now, and it'll go further into the book. But what is faith? It's a virtue by which a Christian is enabled to know the truth about God, right? God is transcendent. You can't see him, touch him, feel him, hear him. Oh, yes, you can hear him in your heart. You sure can. He speaks to you in words. But it's not a physical being that can be analyzed, right? So we have to use faith and seek the truth about the nature of God and his desires for us, right? And the Bible lays out the teachings and the revelation of God in the Old Testament, and the New Testament tells us the Christ teachings on the pathway to salvation, right? And so we have to take what we know firsthand and then add faith to it to go down this path of seeking the pure truth, right? Hope is the second virtue. It gives us a reason to move forward. We hope for a life everlasting. We hope to be able to get into heaven. We hope to be with our God for all eternity, right? It keeps us from despair. If there was no hope, the opposite is despair, frustration. Life would be, okay, I'm born, I live, and I die. And what's the purpose of it? 60, 70 years, it's over. For what, right? So hope is what carries us on and uplifts us and keeps us moving towards God, right? charity or love. It said that God is the essence of love, is pure love. Loving your God, but you need to show that by loving your neighbor, right? So charity is the virtue where we're kind to our neighbor. We're empathetic when they're in trouble. We help them when they're down, right? We seek counsel from them as friends, right? That's charity. It's a bonding of love for God and for our fellow man. And without those three virtues, life would be shallow, hollow, empty. You'd be a mechanic, just trudging along day in and day out and not really accomplishing anything. When you can learn to love God with your whole heart and soul, mind and body, and He returns that. It's like a fire in your gut. It's something that if you don't experience it in your life, you're fooled. And once you've experienced it, you'll never turn away from it, right? So, get into question 7. What is the meaning of the right of religious freedom? And we discussed that quite a bit in this chapter and in your test. It's immunity from being coerced to an act against one's own conscience, right? It's the freedom to act according to your own beliefs, right? You can't be forced into believing something. You have to have the freedom to choose, freedom to seek the truth. Religious freedom gives you the ability to seek the truth, right? And you have to go by the dictates of your own conscience, right? It means no one can believe anything. It does not mean that you can't believe anything. Religious freedom means you're free to pure and seek the truth about God, right? It gives you the freedom to do that. Right? It doesn't say you have to believe in a God. That's not religious freedom. It means you have to seek the truth. If you do seek the truth, obviously you will believe in a supreme being. And if you have hope in your heart, you will believe in life after death and the future, right? How are the theological virtues bound up in the first commandment, right? They infused in baptism, the great gift comes directly from God and puts all people in touch with Him, right? So baptism is the key, the beginning of our spiritual life. It gives us the initial sanctifying grace. It gives us the virtues, and it opens the dialogue with your Creator, right? Even though Catholics, we get baptized as infants, but the ability to commune with God starts then, right? And as we mature in mind, in spirit, we're supposed to create a long-lasting relationship with our God. You're supposed to climb that mountain of perfection throughout your life. And we go 2 steps forward, 1 step back most of the time. We get a little closer to God and then we fall back a little. Get a little closer to God and we fall back a little. Developing a prayer life comes with maturity. But, nobody's going to say one day, oh, bang, I am as close to God as I can get before I die. It's a developmental process that takes time, but it starts with baptism and it starts with the infusion of the theological virtues and sanctifying grace. Right? So we talked about faith, hope, and charity. The duties of each person, question number 12, have to care for his or her faith. What should he do, or he or she do, when something attacks your faith, right? You guys like to debate. Some of you just like to argue for the sake of arguing, right? Religious beliefs run fervent with people, and they're not always the same. Protestants have certain beliefs different from Catholics. Jews have certain beliefs from Protestants. Islam has different beliefs from Christianity. And everyone that is true to their own personal religion have deep feelings about those positions. we discussed this in a couple of chapters ago about this truth, right? And truth, there's only one truth. On any issue, any topic, there's only one truth, right? So when defending your religion, you need to be prepared to do that with knowledge, right? You can't argue with someone without knowing your own facts and figures, details, right? Well, the church puts out the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It's the book. You know, got it. I got copies of it here. Here we go. You see it? Catechism of the Catholic Church. Right? So all the rules, all you need to know about your faith and Christianity is in this book, right? And so when defending your faith against an attack, you need to be prepared with the facts and figures, because you can do harm to your own religion if you try and have an argument with somebody and are not speaking from the truth, right? And fact and figures, right? So when attacked, defend, but defend with knowledge and understanding, right? You guys all messed up a little bit on question 14, not all of you, but most of you got 14 wrong in some way. It was matching the following words with their definitions. And you'll see a lot of these words on your quiz and your test for this chapter, right? What is indifference? Refusal to reflect on the existence of God's goodness and the power of his love, right? You just don't care. You know what the word indifference means. I don't care whether I have vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream. It doesn't matter. Just bring me some ice cream, right? That's indifference, right? Hatred of God, denying God's love out of pride, cursing God for forbidding sin and inflicting punishment, right? A lot of people think the 10 Commandments are don't. You can't do this, you can't do that. They're restrictive laws because most of them start, thou shalt not, right? They are commandments to tell us what not to do, but they also have a positive side to it. So hatred of God sometimes comes from people who don't want to be confined to social norms and social rules, right? And you saw that movie, what was it? God's Not Dead, and the guy hated God. He tried to teach his students that there was no God. God is dead. He never doesn't exist. But it all stemmed from, quote, his hatred for God. His mother died and when he was a young man, and he blamed God for a natural act, right? And so he went through his entire life with a hatred for God. Anytime you let hate build up in your heart and soul, whether it's hatred for God or hatred for someone else, it eats you alive. It destroys your life. So it's a tool Satan uses, hate, right? Acedia, most of you got that wrong. Refusing to accept the joy that comes from God, or being repelled by God's goodness, right? Or being too lazy to return to God, right? So most of you get taught about God, about religion, about going to church. We teach you about prayer. We do lectio. But then as you get older and you get other interests and you got sports and you got girls, you get lazy and you get just forget about God, right? It's not a rejection so much. It is just a laziness, right? To engage God, right? Ingratitude is the other word a lot of you got wrong. Failure to acknowledge God's love and to return it, right? If you look around and see all of the great things God's given you, I don't care how bad your life seems to you, it's fantastic compared to where it could go. Look at how we were doing a few weeks ago. We were all here in school. We all had our sports. We were playing baseball and wrestling and all the great things we do here at Benedictine. And in a matter of weeks, it's turned upside down. And I know back before all this happened, some of you grumble, I didn't want to be in school, y'all. Why do we have to do this? Y'all, the school's too hard. You bitched and complained about it. So many things. And now it's been taken from you. And for the most part, you're all begging to come back. You want to get back here. You want to come back to the classroom. You want to get back on the athletic fields, right? So whenever you think your life is bad, make sure you understand it could get worse, right? But in not giving God gratitude for this beautiful planet, for your life, I talk to every once in a while, I tell you, did you just breathe? Whose air did you just breathe? You breathe in God's air, right? And you better thank him for it. He might stop giving it to you someday and you're going to be sorry, right? So be grateful for the wonderful things that God gives you, not ingratitude, right? And the last word was lukewarmness. Hesitation or neglect to respond to God's love. God is sitting there trying to pour his love out to you. He is desirous to love you and have you love him. And he's always there ready to fill you with it. And if you don't care, you won't get it, right? And that's called lukewarmness. I know I went through most of my life with wives, children, but not truly knowing how to love. Not real love, not from the depth of my heart, soul, my guts. Oh, I had fondness and liked people and all, but the depth of love. And then one day I just asked God, teach me. Please teach me how to really love. And from that moment on, he just poured in it. Right? It changed my whole life. It brought me back to the church. It brought me here with you guys. Right? That depth of love that he is ready to give you. Right? So the number 15 will be the last one on this section, and tomorrow we'll continue on. When a person comes across a challenge to his faith, he or she does not understand, where should he or she go, right? Just like I said, you return to someone of learning in the faith, you go to the catechism and other reliable sources, right? So always seek out guidance from someone that has more understanding, more education, more study in the topic that you're dealing with in your faith, right? All else fails, you go to the catechism. It's a great tool, and if you go through it it's easy to read, and it's broken down and compartmentalized, so you can actually find whatever topic you're looking for. But you've always got priest and me, to come to. All right, so we're going to wrap it up for today, and that's questions 1 through 15, which was your first homework in this chapter. Tomorrow we will we might review your quiz that you're turning in today at 3, or continue on with this homework, these workbook questions for the rest of this chapter. The likelihood that we're coming back into online classes is strong for the next week. So I want to make sure that we're up to snuff on this chapter 19. So when we get back into it, we are rolling down the road with it, right? We're finishing our second week in the first week in the fourth quarter. We got a week and a half to go next week in part of following before our Easter break. So we got a lot to get done in a short period of time to do it. All right, guys, be good, be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.